Paper 2 of English language is of 1 hour 45 minutes. It is comprised of two sections. Section 1 is reading for ideas and section 2 is reading for meaning. It's altogether of 1 hour 45 minutes. You're advised to consume 45 minutes for the first part and around an hour for the second part of paper. This paper is of 50 marks. The marks are equally divided and between the two sections, 25 marks for each section. In section 2, reading for meaning, you will be provided with a narrative passage of around 700 words. You're required to answer all the questions given in the question paper. These questions will test your reading ability and how well you understand the language. Broadly, there are two types of comprehension questions: explicit meaning questions and implicit meaning questions. The answers of explicit meaning questions are clearly found in the passage, whereas the answers for implicit meaning questions are unclear. There are four types of explicit meaning questions: literal, quotation, vocabulary, and own words, whereas implicit meaning questions are of two types: inferential and writer's craft, or you may call it meaning in effect question. The second passage in the insert is for reading for meaning. You're required to read the passage twice, once as a whole, and the second time paragraph wise to answer the question. When you are going to read it as a whole, you will understand the situation, the theme, and the characters. You'll also have some extra information given before the paragraphs of the passage begin. This extra information is very helpful as these passages are taken from the novel most of the time. They will give you a clue of the situation, the character, and the problem. After reading the passage for the first time, you're required to read the question and go back to the paragraph to answer the questions. In explicit question, the first type of question is literal question. The answer of such questions are very clear to be identified. Furthermore, there are some keywords or key phrases that are going to help you to find out the answer. Read the question twice if you couldn't get the keywords for the first time. You'll find similar words or the same words in the passage that are going to direct you towards the answer. This is an example of literal question. You can see that in the question there is a key phrase printed word. Similar words are in the passage and they are leading you towards the answer. So the answer for this question is the printed word was dangerous and not to be trusted. It's better if you write the answer as it is rather than writing this answer in your own words. That may cause confusion or sometimes even the meaning of the words are changed. Unless you are asked to use your own words, it's better if you use the words of the passage. The second type of question is own word question. In such questions, you are required to follow two steps. In the first step, you are going to find out the literal answer of the question. Then you'll just underline the key phrases and replace them with the alternate words. Sometimes the words and phrases are already given in the question, so half of the work is done for you. All you have to do is to use your own words for the given phrases. There could be 2 or 3 words to be converted, and it all depends upon the marks. This is the example of own words question. You'll see that the keywords are already given, and these words are written in commas so that you can easily identify them. The first step is already done, so you'll follow the second step for finding an alternate words for the two words that are given. Sometimes you cannot come up with an alternate word. At that time, it is safe to use a description or even opposite of those words. You can see here the two keywords are followed by number of alternate words or even phrases. So you can write any one of them, a word or description, to get a mark for each of the word. The third type of question is quotation question. Here you have to pick out a single word, two consecutive words, or a phrase from the passage. You have to follow the instructions as it is. Here, a single word means a single word. And if you write a phrase instead of it, you would not gain marks for it. This is an example of quotation question. You can see that the question begins with a sentence taken from the paragraph. Then the question demands you to pick out and write down two-word phrase that is used later in the paragraph, and the phrase conveys similar idea or it's of similar meaning. We just look at the phrase here, then you'll find out suffocating panic is conveying the same idea as conveyed by difficulty in drawing breath. The last type of question is vocabulary. This type of question is mostly found at the end of the paper, mostly the second last question. Here you will find a list of 5 words. For each one of them, there would be 4 options. As it's an MCQ, you'll just find out the best possible option. While you are finding it out, do remember that the line numbers are given. Reread those lines and find out the meaning of that word in the context. One of the options would be completely wrong, the other would be close enough, and one would definitely be the correct answer. This is the example of vocabulary question. You can see the word brimming is followed by the line number and the 4 options. In the context, if you read out the word brimming, it is used to show that her life is full of secrets. The first option in girl signifies that she is surrounded with secrets. This is quite close. The second option, overflowing, signifies that her life was filled or full of secrets, whereas the other 2 options are showing that she was stunned or surprises that were stored for her. So here in this situation, the closest one is the second one. It's very easy to find out or finalize the meaning by just looking into the context how it is used. Implicit questions are of 2 types. The first one is inferential. Here the reader is expected to read between the lines, something that is actually not explicitly mentioned in the passage, but by reading it once or twice, you'll understand the situation and would be in a position to draw a conclusion. Such questions mostly start from the phrases like, what do you think? How do you know? What can you tell? It means that these answers are not mentioned in the passage explicitly, but you are required to dig in to find out what it could be. The best way to answer these questions are to involve yourself. Think of yourself as one of the characters, and then you will understand the situation and would respond accordingly. This is the example of inferential question. You can see that here in this situation, the first character is behaving in a different manner when she's facing the second character. Definitely, the context would tell you why she behaved differently and why she depicted this attitude towards the famous photographer. The answer of this question is not at all written clearly. But when you put yourself into the situation of the main character, you'll just understand that you behave differently when you meet people whom you admire, whom you idolize, whom you worship. And this is the very answer of this question. In the last question, which is writer's craft or meaning or effect question, you will find out that there are two limbs to be answered. After reading the instructions carefully, you will find out two phrases or two sentences given to you. For each of the phrase or sentence, you have to tell what is the meaning of it and what's the effect that it's casting. The meaning is actually the literal meaning which you are going to mention, but for the effect, you would write the impact that the writer wants to create by using those particular words. In this example of writer's craft question, you will see that before the phrases, important details are given. For example, reread paragraph 5. So here you'll find out that which paragraph you are required to reread to get the answer. Sometimes there would be two paragraphs that you have to read, sometimes there would be only one. Then you have to read out what exactly you have to tell. The feelings of the character, the response of the character to the situation, or any other detail. So, A here means that the feelings are written for the first phrase, that is, radiated toxic material. For the phrase radiated toxic material, you're required to tell about the feelings of the character. So, for the meaning, it would be quite obvious and literal meaning, just like she hated it, she detested it, she despised it, and that's it. But for the effect, you're required that why did she detest it? So the answer would tell why and what could be the consequences. For example, she was troubled because she could lose the job because of the contract. Practice as many past papers as you can to shine in the examination. Best of luck!